G'day guys, and welcome to another Aussie DOS Freshwater Fishing Edition. Today we're in the Wide Bay in southeast Queensland. I am from down this way originally, so I'm glad to be back down there. And I was a little bit surprised during the week. I finally got a call from somebody offering me a chance to go and catch that barramundi I've been chasing. I didn't expect it to come from me brother, but I was welcome to hear it anyway. So I packed up the car and headed off, driving through torrential rains during the night. We take the car as far as we can, and soon enough we've got to get out and walk on this cold autumn morning. Now guys, I can't tell you exactly where this spot is, but it's a fair way off the beaten track, and it's a fair walk in after that. Now you've got to cross some of this swampy marshland to get to the deeper water where we're going to fish. The Wide Bay is actually too far south to harbour freshwater crocodiles, and we don't believe the salties are made it this far up into the fresh yet.
No, I got wet.
But these marshlands can still harbour deadly things, like the red-bellied black snake, which is fairly venomous as far as snakes go, and they predominantly live in this kind of swampland, hunting frogs and fish and anything else they can get their jaws on. Now, although today we're out there primarily chasing that big barramundi, there's also going to be the chance of Australian bass, like you would have seen in one of my other videos, and also the yellow belly, which is an awesome freshwater fish, a great sport fish. But yeah, like I said, today we're out here chasing that barramundi. Now Coen's a little bit worried about that storm overnight to really drop the water temperature here with the fresh running in, and just the cold wind and breeze that comes with a big storm like that. But I'm certainly not the kind of person who, even when the odds are stacked against me, is going to not get out there and give it a crack. I mean, that's what it's all about, so we're going to get out here undeterred, flick a few lures around. Today we're just using lures with no bait today. When there's a little bit of a cold snap like this, the fish tend to go really placid and not eat too much. And we'll see if we can drop a few lures in front of them and stir some of these guys up and try and get a strike out of them. As we climb through this tangled brush, stumbling ever closer to where we're going to fish, Coen's quick to point out a large spider hanging in the trees. We have a quick discussion on what species it is, but he's inevitably right. When I go home and look it up, it's a golden orb spider. So, not too deadly, but not something you really want to go playing with either. The track is somewhat worn in, especially out onto this reed bed where people have been fishing from, which does prove that it's fairly popular with a few locals, but it is one of those hidden spots which I don't think too many people know about. This is what I'm going to start off today with. It's a new lure I've picked up. It's just a little cicada, a little bit of top water action, hopefully to drag over the top of one of those barra or bass and initiate a strike. Now, as you can see, you are actually walking through the water on top of the reeds here, so you're going to get wet. Not quite as wet as we got walking into this spot, but it's certainly a wet track. So I recommend wearing closed-in shoes. Coen's not, he's just wearing thongs, but each to their own. But there is a little bit of high ground at the end, so we're going to set up a bit of a camp here and flick some lures and see if we can stir up a bit of action. That cicada swims really well, and I reckon it would have got a hit up. I got 3 really good casts out of it before I ended up donating it to the swamp here. So I ended up switching over to a 47mm deep diver, and Coen's just running some soft plastic white paddle tails, you know, with the lead jig heads, and they seem to be swimming pretty well through here as well. So this is the first barra we've seen of the morning. When I'm winding me lure in quite quick because it's got caught on a little bit of weed, I was splashing along the top, and yeah, come up and had a look at it. Didn't take it, but it was a decent sized barra, so I'm going to flick it back out there and see if we can get a little bit more action. That barra does a second follow, but it just doesn't seem to want to take the lure. Other than that, we see a few little bass out here, but the fishing sort of quietens off a bit as the day goes on, so we go in search of a new spot. While we're walking along this bank here, it looks like there's a fairly large strip of open water, so I bust a fat betty out and flick it as far as I can, and as soon as I go to retrieve it, it's snagged, and you know, that's gone. Anyone who follows the channel will know I've been counting down. I bought 6 of these. Got them for a great deal a while ago, and I've only got 2 left now. So I'll chuck on the double clutch in anticipation. I'll find another little spot to flick some lures around. So this is the first little section of swamp that we crossed early in the morning. Coen decides he's going to cross back over to the side where we started, and I'm going to stay on the side we're on now. My thinking was, with this cold water, the barra might be coming up into the shallows to try and warm up a little bit before they go out and try and find some feed. All the water lilies growing in this stretch of water make it really hard to use a conventional hard body lure to flick for them here. You really need something weedless. Like you can get the weedless fish traps, or even what Coen's using, he's buried the hook deep inside the soft plastic to stop it getting caught. But I just keep catching lily pads here. I do eventually work my way back across the swamp to Coen's side. We follow it down to where we were fishing this morning, but on the opposite bank. And lo and behold, what can I spy out there in the middle? It's a bit hard to see, but that yellow thing out there, that's my missing cicada. Like I said, Coen's been out here before, and he decides the best thing we should do is cut in through the bush to another water access. And look what we find on the trail. This guy's not happy about us being here, and if you see one of these out there, always make sure to keep your distance. You don't want to get too close to this guy. So we didn't get a positive identification of him, so we decided the best thing to do is just stay clear. There you go, down in there somewhere. Stick pole. We'll go around him. There'll be plenty of them down here.
That's what I was afraid of, walking through the grass before.
Oh, this looks like a good little spot. It's well after dawn now, but it stayed overcast all day, probably remnants of that storm last night. But I was kind of hoping the sun had come out and heat that water up a little bit and maybe get these fish a bit more active. But it's just not happening for us today. There's one more spot we can check out along this track before we've got to walk back out. So we're going to go and check it out and see how it goes. This is a really thin tributary of that main channel we were on. It's quite deep. I think it'd be a good bait fishing spot, but it's just very narrow to be flicking lures in. The die was a little bit too big, so I flick over to this little 40mm I managed to buy. And it seems like it swims a bit better, gets a bit more motion up in this little thin channel, but still no hit-ups. The only thing we managed to find in this little creek is plenty of logs to snag on. Do you want me to go first because I'm wearing shoes?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I can't see him. Oh yeah, I can. He's back on the track. So this guy's exactly in the same area he was before. So it's lucky we were keeping an eye out for him, because now he's sitting there a little bit stiller and we've not spooked him this time. We can get a positive identification. Now we both agree that we're going to call this guy a taipan. Not sure whether he's the western or coastal taipan. Either way, if one of us got done over by this guy, probably 50-50 chance we're going to make it. The maximum survival time after getting hit with one of these without any veneem is 2.5 hours. And over that, there is 0 chance of survival. To give you a bit of an idea on how strong that venom is, if a taipan bites, it injects enough venom to kill 10 adult males. That's crazy. We're probably lucky I did go first, since you didn't see him this time. Alright guys, so we didn't do any good out here today. We'll definitely be out here to check it out again. But like I said, I can't tell you where this one is. A little bit of a secret spot, but ask the locals. They might be able to help you out. Alright guys, catch you on the next one. Righto guys, thanks for joining us on this adventure. And if you want to get in contact with me, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, or leave a comment in here. I do check them all the time. And if you've got any suggestions on how we should improve this channel, I'd love to hear from you about that too. Alright guys, catch you next time.